almost as soon as the CAV started, regional associations also sprang up. There was one big metropolitan group already in existence, Camberwell Career Advisors Association or something, I don't know exactly what they call themselves, and that was consisted entirely of private schools. But in more remote places like Bendigo or Morwell, Ballarat, where there were 2 or 3 secondary schools, the careers teachers naturally wanted to talk to each other because what they were doing was so unlike what had been done previously. And so very shortly there were these small groups, and CAV encouraged them, and when we could, we would try and go and visit them and offer them support. A lot of the concern of teachers was conditions. I think that probably teachers' conditions were pretty poor anyway at the time, but there was a lot of prejudice in some schools against a teacher who didn't teach the standard number of periods a week, whatever it was. I think it might have been 24, but I'm not sure. And careers teachers didn't always get their one class and the rest of it full time, of course. They got some time off to do it. And so other members of staff sometimes resented that. And very sadly, some principals took it as an opportunity to take out of the classroom someone who couldn't teach, which was something that the CAV worked hard to try and connect to principals and say this is not what, this is not going to provide the best for your students. Well, I think the second year there was still only perhaps another 20. There wasn't a big number. After that, it became each school was expected. Jack Ford saw that each school should be expected to appoint a careers teacher, and then the training changed from being something that we did in a back room at Queensbury Street Centre to having a residential course. Now, I can't remember the first year that we had the residential course, I'm sorry, but I would think it was about 4 years after the association was founded. But that was run by the Education Department, that was not run by the CAV. The CAV would run programs of its own, but they were generally only after school. You couldn't run them at any other time. And that's why sometimes we would run a program in a country area, travelling down after our own school had finished. And that didn't go on for long, because not that long afterwards, the Education Department moved into a regional structuring. And when the regional restructuring occurred, then careers got some support at their regional level, and that was a big improvement. That was not, again, not the CAV itself. But meantime, the CAV, partly I think through Donald's efforts, but also Graham Campbell, I would regard him as also a key figure in getting CAV a place amongst other subject associations, so that the subject associations then work together to try and get an improved support for subject associations from the Education Department. And that joint council of subject associations, which I presume in some form still exists. So Graham Campbell had a big part in them, and eventually he was our president and their president conjointly. That meant that we had another avenue for working to promote a better understanding of workplace with students, because we could work through other subject associations. It won't surprise anyone to think that the Commercial Teachers Association was the one that we first formed a close relationship with, but later Science Teachers and Maths Association, etc. We then had problems with accommodation because the box under the bed business was pretty pathetic. And we started meeting in the commercial teachers' meeting rooms as a committee, and then we took permanent accommodation with them. And at about that stage, we got a permanent staff member, I think maybe a couple of days a week only. I'm not too sure about that. And I suspect that my recollection of that is a bit dim because though I've always retained my membership of the CAV, I was seconded to the Chamber of Manufactures for 2 years, 1981 and 2, I think. And during that secondment, I was not in a school. I stayed on the committee, but some things about it are not terribly clear. Then I went back to the school after 2 years, and I was transferred from Eltham High, where I'd been for 16 years, to Lawland North Secondary College, which I understand no longer exists. And I'd been there about 6 months when I was seconded to the Psych and Guidance branch to work with Betty, and that was when I sort of got back again into strong contact with the worked very closely with the CAV for the next, I don't know, however long I was there.